Okay. The research proposal I'm going to present today is on the ESG rating divergence through the lenses of materiality. As the motivation of this research proposal actually stems from the fact that currently there are several ESG rating agencies or providers that measures the ESG rating for a single firm. And this table from this recent paper illustrates the correlations between the ESG ratings at the aggregate ESG level, as well as at the environmental dimension, the social dimension, and the governance dimension. And as we can see that on average, the average correlation at the ESG, at the aggregate ESG level is actually not that high. And specifically, if we focus on the governance dimension, the G part, the correlations can be extremely low, which brings us to the conclusion that the ESG rating seems to be surprisingly subjective. And with regards to the prior literature, one strand of the literature focuses on the determinants of the ESG divergence, which may stem from the measurements part, the scope part, as well as some differences in weight. And another strand of literature focuses on the asset pricing implication. Some papers show that stock returns are positively related to the ESG rating divergence. And of course, some recent papers focus on the materiality part, which refers to the importance of information that significantly influences the investors. And two recent papers find that institutional shareholders mainly improve the financially material CSR issues, and some firms with good ratings on material sustainability issues in particular outperform firms with poor ratings on these issues. And but there are some gaps. First, we still have no knowledge of whether materiality makes a difference to ESG rating divergence. Building on that, building on that, we still do not know whether the market reacts to immaterial ESG rating divergence. And more importantly, we also have no knowledge of any relationship between the ESG rating divergence and the managerial incentives. Since, based on the agency theory, the ESG is a pure agency problem inside the firm. And what is equally important is that we do not have any knowledge of whether or how ESG rating divergence impacts the firm-related fundamentals, such as earnings quality and analyst forecast. So here comes the hypothesis part. The first hypothesis is that institutional investors do not care about immaterial ESG rating divergence. And hypothesis two is that institutional investors do care about material ESG rating divergence. And the rationale behind these two hypotheses is that institutional investors are sophisticated enough to differentiate material ESG divergence from the immaterial one. And the third hypothesis is that stock returns are positively related to material ESG divergence. And hypothesis four is that in the short run, stock returns might be related to immaterial ESG divergence, but this relation will disappear in the long run. And specifically for this hypothesis, the rationale is that in the short run, retail investors may react to immaterial ESG divergence, but in the long run, this reaction will dissipate. And hypothesis 5 is that the ESG divergence is higher when the CEO's total compensation is more closely related to the value of stock and option holdings. And this is basically from the agency theory. And the remaining two hypotheses are on the relationship between the ESG divergence and firm fundamentals. So the rationale is roughly the same as the one related to the agency theory. As for the identification strategy, uh, I use the materiality data. So namely the materiality guidance from the SASB. So as for the construction of the index, basically I just follow the conventional practice in the literature, and I can access the relevant data uh, from the following sources. And that concludes my presentation.